Hi, everyone. We're back with another coffee with one of my colleagues. I like that. I think we might franchise that, coffee with colleagues.
I like,
Um, I'm joined by my good friend Vanessa, who joined my team in, what was it, January of this year, maybe December of last year.
yeah, December.
So you picked a fantastic time to start with Conference Direct, Vanessa. I'll tell you, it's been a whirlwind of a year for 2020. As businesses come to a grinding halt, I know you've been faced with a lot of challenges, but I wanted to give this opportunity. You saw the call we did with Angie the other day. Wanted to give an opportunity for people to get to know you. I think that Angie shared a lot of great wisdom and advice, and I know you'll do the same. I have a lot of respect and admiration for you. I think you're a tremendous addition to our team. I'm thrilled to have you aboard. And again, just give you an opportunity for people who know me, people who know you, and anyone else who wants to watch, just to get a better idea of who Vanessa is. So with that introduction, the floor is yours, my dear. Give me a few minutes of who Vanessa is and what's your story to this point.
Sure. Well, I do want to add that that's a really good point about why we're doing this is that, first of all, we can't see each other face to face.
Yeah.
So, what better way to allow people to meet yourself and get to know you, everyone to do this, than to, try to have these kind of video chats and show who you really are, right? I mean, we can obviously talk about the professional world and that's very important to keep knowledge floating around, but also I think to really have people be able to see who you are as an individual is key. It's important to me, and that's why I've challenged myself to um, get more involved in LinkedIn as one challenge for myself this year. But I started out in the industry, geez, 18 years ago, I want to say, in the hotel industry, and I've always loved it. Start off by saying that my brothers are both pilots and firefighters. My sister's a fashion designer, or she started her career as a fashion designer. And here I am, the youngest of four, and I have no idea what I wanted to do. And they've got these amazing careers lined up for themselves with passion behind it. And my parents were like, "What do you want to do?" And I didn't know. I had no idea. I had no passion for like a specific hobby or interest in a career. But I love people. I thought, well, I'm a people person. So that's why I went down the hospitality route and quickly realized that I thought hotels um, would be the right fit after being in restaurants my entire college career. I knew that that's not where I wanted to go. That's a tough, tough world. And so I loved it. I started out, had most of my career with Starwood Hotels, absolutely loved working there, built a lot of great relationships
Go
over
Starwood.
that, right? That's how I
Yeah.
met Jeremy, actually,
Always Starwood
first and
Rental.
foremost.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I loved it. But I always knew that it probably wouldn't be where I ended. I always wanted to stay in the hospitality industry, but I struggled with not having long-lasting relationships with my clients. And so I knew that there would probably be a progression at some point for me. But yeah, I've always loved it.
You talked about the fact that you have a natural people person kind of personality. I don't know if I said that right. Your personality is that you love people. Hospitality is a natural extension of that. I think that's what attracted me to the industry in the first place, too. And I'll tell you the other thing, to tell you a little bit about my story and how I eventually got to Conference Direct as well. I chose hotels because I thought it was an awesome opportunity I always had a dream to travel and live in different places in the world. I grew up in the Northeast of the U.S. But I had ambitions to move around. Working in hotels provides you an opportunity to be that. I mean, if you work for a manufacturing company, you got to go where the manufacturing company is housed, is where the headquarters are.
Right.
With hotels, you can go to any city in the world and you have a job, right? And so I was fortunate. I worked in the Bahamas and Puerto Rico and South Florida and Arizona for various resorts. I always found that was a great way to see other parts of the world. Gravitating into Conference Direct and why I chose to take my career in my own hands and not leave it in the hands of a hotel company is you have all that much more freedom. And, the idea that I can pretty much work and live anywhere as long as I have my phone and my computer and I have access to my clients, I could be anywhere in the world and work. So that freedom that I sought with hotels was even exponentially greater when I finally got to Conference Direct, and part of the reason why I made the move. And I say that because I know that was keen, one of your interests too when you were looking to make the move to Conference Direct was exactly that. Talk a little bit more about how you wanted to take back your career in your own hands.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I've always been interested in this kind of role between the hotels and organizations to finding the right value and all that. So I've always loved that. And the reason was because the relationships were stronger. You're dealing with them for all of their programs and you're assisting them. You understand the intricacies of what they're looking for and you bond and you're working together in a partnership. So that always interested me pretty much from like year two of the hotel industry. But it's a challenging decision to make, especially in the specific role we are in now, where we are our own company, right? And we have to create all of that on our own. But I always loved Conference Direct. I always thought it was very professional, and you have to be prepared for it though. You have to know, have a focus, have a mindset for it, and as you like to use the word grit, right, to figure that out. And I always thought I had it. I just wasn't ready yet. And I got to a point, I think, where I am in my life where, as you said, I craved that independence as well,
Yeah.
where I was creating my own destiny. And so when I saw that you were on LinkedIn and you were building a team, I was so excited because I obviously would love to work with someone who it would be a wonderful mentor and inspire me, and who I just trust and have such high regard for. And so it was just amazing that we crossed paths and that I'm here today. But ultimately, I think it's so great that truly I'm living my dream. I always wanted to do this. And I always thought maybe I would do it. But the fact that I'm actually sitting in this seat right now and I can say, I did it, I'm doing it. It's really cool.
I'm equally thrilled. First of all, thanks for the compliments. That I blushed a little bit over here as you were talking about that. I have, again, an equal amount of admiration for you. You really are a true professional. I thought it might be relevant too, and this is, I think most of the folks that are going to watch this video are in the industry and know what Conference Direct is. But just for the
Right.
benefit of those who might not, if you're watching this just as a professional and as a friend of ours, what we do with Conference Direct, we both came from hotel sales. Our goal in hotel sales was to attract conferences and conventions, any group event essentially, to our hotels. And what we did, I made the decision now 8.5 years ago, and Vanessa made the decision just a few months ago. We are essentially a meetings broker. So we, instead of trying to attract clients to our hotel, now we represent those clients and try and find the hotel and negotiate the best deal on their behalf for any hotel around the world. So we don't work for a hotel company anymore. We work for clients in their effort as they try and pursue a hotel for their meetings. So we try and again find that hotel for them and broker the best deal. So that's kind of Conference Direct in a nutshell. Would you have anything to add to that, Vanessa?
No, I mean, I think that's a really good way to sum it up. And I think it is great that you added it, though, because I think a lot of people that don't know what Conference Direct is or think they do might not realize the scope of what it is. And the fact that we've, broadened our horizon too this year with everything going on. And I feel like I think I will say this actually, one reason I think I have grown even to love it more than I already did when I chose to go with Conference Direct is that I'm realizing it's a little similar to Starwood in the sense that it's pretty innovative.
Yeah.
Starwood was always ahead of the other hotel chains, I felt like, and most sectors, coming up with the heavenly bed, et cetera, and realizing that we needed to focus on certain things with the travelers and what would make them happy. And I feel like that's what we do for planners. We're trying to stay a step ahead, and we are in many ways than our competitors.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. When I decided to leave the hotel side, I had, in my mind, I had two options. I was either going to go out on my own and start Jeremy Marquardt Enterprises, or I was going to join Conference Direct. And I think there's a notable difference, and not speaking ill of any of our competitors because we have some great competitors out there. But there's a notable difference, at least in my mind, is the way that Conference Direct is perceived in the marketplace, the quality of talent that it attracts. I wanted to be part of that energy for sure. So, but tell me about that path. How did you go from, you talked a little bit about it, but tell me more about what led you to the road to Conference Direct. Why did you finally make that jump? And what was it you were looking for when you made this change in your career? What were some of the things that drove you to this decision?
Yeah, I think throughout my career, I went from one big change that I was able to make fairly early on was going from working in the office to being a remote salesperson, partly because I wanted to move to an area that's not near a major city, but I wanted to work for a bigger hotel because that's what I was used to. And also because I wanted more independence. I wanted to, I work better. I work better in a quiet environment, not with a lot of conversation around the water cooler. As much as I'm a people person, I like flexibility and I like to have time to focus in quiet environments. And so those were some of the reasons that I wanted to do it. Ultimately, I had that yearn to be my own boss early on. It just again was something that I knew I had to wait to make happen. And it's not just waiting game because you're going out on your own. You also need to gather that experience, right? I needed to understand what it was like to sell. I've sold a city property, many city properties, excuse me. I've sold beach properties in the United States and Florida. I've sold property in Aruba, so I received incentive travel experience with that. And my last position was at a five-star hotel in DC, and it was a spectacular hotel, wonderful experience, and completely different than any other hotel I've worked at before. Um, and so all of those experiences allow me to have that knowledge to share with my clients and understand the scope of different types of contracts, different types of events, how involved some are and some are not, and how cities are all different. Each CVB has their own quirks, right? Their own nuances that you need to kind of be aware of as well as hotel chains and individual directors um, and contracts. Everything's different, right, with every one of them. So it's really great to have that all under my belt now and be able to use that for clients. So it's definitely that, and understanding also the other scope of it, right? The other side of it,
Yeah.
DMCs, travel transportation companies, hoteliers. I've got a lot of great hotel friends, and it seems like even though it's a huge world that we're in, it seems pretty small, doesn't it, Jeremy?
No doubt, no doubt. I think, I mean, ever more small now that we're living through these COVID days, and so many of our friends and people that we used to work with are furloughed or without a job. I mean,
Right.
our role, I think, as being able to keep track of the moving parts in hotels, it's always been one of our best assets to be able to know who in a hotel to contact on behalf of our clients. Now, all the more so because I'm playing, dial for dollar sometimes when I'm trying to get a hold of somebody in the hotel side of things because my contact is no longer there. So, but you bring up an excellent point, by the way, too. Of I think if I could summarize your road in your experience is that you learn how to speak hotel. And I think that that is another valuable asset that we bring to the table. Um, I know how to speak to a client and I know their language, but I also know how to speak to a hotel. I know what a hotel has to hear in order to make my client's piece of business more attractive. And not only that, there's a lot of times where you're going to battle for your client with the hotel because a hotel is stonewalling or they're not being responsive. And it really helps to know the dynamics of a hotel, how a hotel operates in terms of their hierarchy, from the GM down to the director of operations, director of rooms to the director of sales, knowing how the hotel operates and also knowing like you talked about the variety of why a resort would want a piece of business that maybe a city hotel wouldn't want, or why a city hotel would want a piece of business that a resort wouldn't want, and why it would want it on a weekend pattern as opposed to a weekday pattern, etc. The more you get that experience and you round out your resume, I do think the better prepared you are to be able to best represent your client. So I'm thrilled that you have that experience that you bring to the table, and you're able to speak so many languages of hotels on behalf of your client. So that's I think, a huge plus. Speaking of clients, tell me about, maybe a client interaction that you remember that was one of your best clients, someone that you, maybe from your side of things, how you took care of them and really shows your service, or maybe from the client side of things, something that you really appreciated about a former client that you worked with in the past, that is a memory that stays with you.
There's a lot. There's a lot, which makes me feel really old, but a lot because each each situation's different, each person's different, each hotel's different, right? And so I've just got so many, but I can think of one where it was one of those kind of perfect storms where the meeting planner, the one of the meeting planners wasn't able to attend, and so the head meeting planner, if you will, um, was kind of out of sorts. She was the other person was sick, and so they weren't able to attend at the last moment.
Okay.
And then their name badges didn't arrive for registration, right? So I was on site, thankfully, because again, with the remote, part of being remote, I think I did miss out on some experiences that I wish I hadn't, because I wasn't always on property. But I was very grateful to be on property that day because I was able to help. I sat and helped write out name badges. Then I helped at registration. I basically filled in as best I could for the planner that couldn't attend, and it was great. It was actually, again, it was wonderful to see that perspective of how on-site events work, and to just be in the day-to-day life of my client. And I loved it. We had a great time. Still friends today. We had dinner afterward. After like the 2-day event took place, and just laughed it up about how crazy it is, and how even when you think that you're prepared for everything, you never are. That's what's so great about this industry, is nothing is black and white, right?
And there's a curveball thrown every minute. I used to tell my team, I came as a director from a director's role within the hotel side of things. So I was managing teams. And one of the things I would always say is expect a crisis every day. If you can expect a crisis, first of all, you're not going to freak out when it comes across your desk, because I think the first instinct when people have a crisis is to run around like a chicken with their head cut off. But if you're expecting it, you're like, okay, this is what I'm here for. I used to say, you know, you'll be one step closer to solving the crisis if you expect it. And
Hmm.
if crisis is solved by themselves, then they wouldn't need managers like us, which I think is again another brilliant illustration of what we do with Conference Direct, is help to solve those problems. There's always going to be something that comes up, no matter how well planned you are, no matter how. I mean, look at the days we're in now. Who would have expected 3 months ago that we'd be sitting here with hotels shut down across the world? And talk about a curveball. This is like out of nowhere. I've never seen anything like this in the industry. So the ability to be able to adapt and to deal with crises, to really manage through those, is again a key component, I think, to what we offer our clients, and how we help to add value. You are building your business. You're looking for new clients. One of the things that I love about this, and you just kind of referenced it in your last story there, is that um, with this model, when you're working at a hotel, you might get a piece of business or a group that comes in, and you see that group once every 4 years, because that's just a rotation of the meeting. What I love about Conference Direct is that once you grab a client and you establish that relationship, and you have that person, that you're planning their meetings. Many times you're planning 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 meetings a year, and you really develop that relationship even to a greater degree, because you know those programs inside and out, and you're able to take a relationship where you talk about the dinner you had with your client at one time. The chances of you doing business with that client again are probably slim to none. But on this side of things, you can take that relationship, and now you're seeing them 5 or 6 times a year. You're having dinner with them, and you get to know them really well. So all of that said, I kind of ramble there for a little bit, but all of that said, what kind of clients are you really looking for? Who is your ideal client as you look to build your business? Not only industry, but just type of personality and people that you get along with that you'd like to work with.
Well, you asked Angie a similar question the other day, and I
I
was
did.
impressed with her answer, which is the person that doesn't realize they need help, or they don't, you know, they're not quite aware of everything they need, and so you can help them figure it out. And so that's always great, because you're really able to help knowledge, teach them the knowledge and the tools that maybe they don't have. So of course I'm looking for that kind of client, but really I want to be a solution person, and I think you can be a solution for every meeting planner out there in some facet or another. Personality wise, I think being on the hotel sales side of it, you have to be able to meld to all the different types of personalities out there. I mean, there's a couple people that I probably didn't get along with over the years, but in general, I get along with that. You can figure it out. Remember having to do like the Brax, what was they have all
Yeah,
those personality tests
yeah,
out
yeah, yeah.
there,
I forgot what they're
right?
called too, but I know what you're
I
talking about.
know.
Yeah. Whether you're a driver,
Anyways,
or whether you're amiable, or yeah, yeah,
exactly. That's it,
yeah.
Jeremy. I can't tell you how many different tests I took like that over the years, and it was great. It was very helpful, and my personality changed over time too, where I went from
Sure.
being an extrovert. Well, they told me I was an extrovert to an introvert, and I was like, well, what's that about? Um, but it makes sense. I don't have to always be around people and talking, and I may come across that way, but I'm fine, not talking for days with people at the same time. I love it, but I don't need it.
Sure.
And so the point with that is that people's personalities change. Everyone has a different type of personality. And so the fact that I had that experience of learning how to work with the different personalities, because it wasn't just a test, it was how to best um, associate yourself with different types of people.
Yeah.
That was very, very helpful. Yeah. And so personalities don't bother me at all. And I think that there's a solution I can provide for just about anybody. It's just a matter of clients or prospective clients or anybody who has a meeting that they plan to give you that time on the phone to talk about what they do. It
Yeah.
doesn't take long, right? And within that conversation and questions that are asked, I've found very often that very quickly you can figure out where you can be a solution, whether it be in the registration game, right? Or if um, they just have some small meetings that take up too many hours for them to
Yeah.
just source them, and they don't need to be spending that amount of time on that when their plate is full. It's not that they can't do it in this case. Maybe they are completely. A lot of planners are completely capable and understanding how to do it, and every facet of it. It's just they don't have the time. And then there's the other people that do not. The other planners that don't want to do that part of it, right? Or the other ones that have multiple roles. And then, as you said, where we come in handy in these situations today where we're helping postpone and unfortunately canceling some events, we are in a position where we know how to do this and we know how to do it very well. But it's not a fun game to have to call and say, I've got it. It's fun to sign a contract and say, you won the business. But it's not fun to say, hey, I need you to, I'm not going to have it anymore. I'm not going to have the event.
Yeah.
And it's easy to just call up your conference director representative or whatever representative and say, I need you to make this call for me.
Yeah. We often have to do a lot of dirty work, unfortunately, because of first of all, telling hotels when they didn't get the business, making that call and letting them know, gee, you put forth a great effort and you didn't get the business. But now, in these times of cancellations and rebooks, like you said, we've got to make that call. There's a certain amount of pride I have in being able to handle that for the client and keeping my client's hands clean and not have to make those somewhat uncomfortable calls with hotels. I mean, certain clients want to be involved to varying degrees, and that's fine. If they want to be in that call, that's great. But a lot of my clients don't. They'd rather have me handle that. And anyway, a great answer. I think that your adaptability is what I got out of that. That you're able to adapt and you're looking for what the client needs, and you can adapt your style and your approach to that client depending on what they need, which I think is a key attribute to have as you build up your client base. That's amazing. So
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think ultimately I definitely want to have all different types of clients with all different types of needs because I want to be challenged and I want to be able to use all the different muscles that I've got in
yeah,
all the different areas. So I hope that the solutions that they're hoping for me are coming from all different areas.
yeah. It's funny. I think of the story. I have learned to eat pretty much every kind of food, especially now that I have clients that we travel internationally and we're planning meetings around the world. You tend to, you have to be adaptable. You have to learn how to kind of hold your nose and eat something you might not be 100% comfortable with. But I will tell you, my palate has grown, incredibly because I've forced myself to do that. So I just ties in. It's a story that reminds me, your ability to adapt and kind of go with the flow is key in a business like this for sure. So,
Yeah.
um, talk about what kind of service you aim to give. So with your clients, what do they expect when they work with Vanessa?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. There's two things about myself that are of utmost importance, and that is having integrity and in everything I do, and then being understood and understanding others. It's very tough for me if I'm not so much for me to not be understood, but if I think that I understand somebody's needs and I don't. So I just want to make sure that I ask all the right questions of all my partners and clients, that to make sure that I'm on the same page with them, because I'm working on their behalf, right? So I want to make sure
Yeah.
that I understand it, uh, basically as part of their arm. I don't know what you say, but as part of
Yeah.
their,
Their left hand.
I need to understand every facet of what they're looking for, and I don't want to misrepresent in any way, shape, or form. I don't know if I'm answering the question right, but
I think you are. I think the being thorough and asking questions is a key attribute to, I think, success in any area of life. I heard this quote attributed to Einstein. I'm not sure if it was him who actually said it. I never quite researched it, but the point that I walk away with remains. He said, "If I had an hour to solve the hardest problem in the world, I would spend 50 minutes asking questions and 10 minutes providing a solution." So, that
love
whole
that.
idea of, the more questions you uncover, the more thoughtful you are and nuanced you are in your approach to uncovering all the issues. I think it not only does it save you time, it's that whole idea of, what do they say? A stitch in time saves nine. You take the time to really get to know your client and really get to know all the details. It saves you a ton of time having to either backtrack or second guess or figure out things later or on the fly if you've done that thorough work ahead of time. So I can really appreciate that. And your line on integrity, it's critical. You have one thing that will stay with you for the rest of your life is your name. And as many mistakes as we make in our lives, I know I've made thousands of them myself. I do everything I can to try and keep my name intact. That if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I really appreciate that about your integrity. That's again another characteristic that I've always admired about you, and I'm glad you see it that way. I'm glad you have that answer.
Well, thank
So
you. And I'm sorry, real quick, I
no, go
also
ahead.
want to
Go.
say that, yeah, with that though, I guess I should say that with the integrity and the understanding, my goal then, of course, is to do everything I can to make sure that client gets all the value, every
Yeah,
piece of whatever they need or want, right? Both, ideally. I want to make sure that they get, and potentially then more so, right? And if I can't get it, I want to be able to explain why and have a solution as to what we can potentially do in place of that. And so, yeah, I think having the integrity helps them to know that they're going to get the best offer out there. And then understanding is that I know what they need.
that's fantastic. Great way to tie both of those in. We are clearly in unprecedented times. That's nothing new, and we're hearing it left, right, and center. Um, Not only with COVID, but now obviously with some civil unrest in the U.S. There's a lot of things going on that are really impacting business these days. Tell me, what are you doing now that we're in somewhat of a slow time? Well, a completely slow time in meetings and events. What are you doing to weather the storm, and how are you preparing yourself for the rebound?
Ah, that's a really, really great question. Yeah, there's a lot of civil unrest and craziness with what's going on with COVID. It's awful, and um, I hope that we are able to make some serious change very quickly.
Yeah.
And with that, I find that I keep trying to evolve, and that's where I really, really enjoy being a part of your team, because you help, like I said from the beginning, you inspire, and I think that I need to be ever evolving. I think we all do, but I have to constantly take a look and what I'm focusing on, and then refocus, because it is changing daily. Um, Still, it's just daily changing. So
Absolutely.
I
Sometimes
stay up on the
hourly.
times. Yeah, it is. It is more like hourly here too. So I definitely try to stay up with the times, with the news, which I've not always been a big news person, but I definitely try to stay up with that, because I think it definitely does communicate to our industry a little bit more than potentially in the past. Um, and then also I definitely have, I mentioned this earlier, social media is one thing that I'm very involved with now. I'm trying to challenge myself with this. It's something I'm quite uncomfortable with, especially videotaping myself. But I've started doing that because I want to, because we can't see each other face to face, and I'm trying to build my business, and also I want people to know my name in general too, and I want to also, I love how much you can learn on LinkedIn, and I can't say that I've ever taken advantage of it as much as I am now. I
Yeah.
think there's just a wealth of knowledge on there about our industry, and also the world at large as well. And so I'm really using that. I'm trying to build up my network and build up my the the posts that I put on there, my content. That's the word I'm looking for. And so, yeah, that's a big focus for me right now with clients, prospective clients, and clients that I have. I'm trying to stay sensitive to what's going on. I've definitely had clients where I haven't heard from them, and actually a couple I realized on LinkedIn they had been furloughed, and so it's I'm definitely trying to be sensitive to that. I'm not trying to really go out and find business, as I don't think that's really uh, that's the right thing to do right now. But I just want to take the time to be knowledgeable, be prepared for the future, and put my name out there.
You spot on. I love that answer, and I think that there's a regardless of when business is fantastic, we're humans first before we're business people. Now that business is slow, even screech to a halt, I think the human side of things to emphasize is even all the more important. Before we're business people, we're humans with each other. And I said it on the last call with Angie, Brian Ritchie, who's one of our leaders and one of the founders of ConferenceDirect, in fact, always says that, people who do business with people they like and people they trust. It's a likability and trustability thing. Your approach of not trying to really aggressively go after business, but really focus on providing meaningful content, number one, but also just developing relationships, I think is critical. Um, Business will come back. And I think when it does, people are going to gravitate and want to do business with people that they trust. That's not anything new. That's not a huge revelation for the way business works, for sure. But I think all the more in these times, being someone who is trustworthy and is likable is going to be critical to being part of a successful relaunch when business comes back again, for sure. So I appreciate that a ton about your answer. So take it out of business, talking about human interactions and humanity. What do you do in your leisure time, especially now that we have so much more time on our hands and we're not out and about like we normally are? What are you doing to pass the time and to? I know you have a beautiful family. What are you doing to keep sane in these times of quarantine?
Oh, I'm a teacher. You didn't know that? I'm a teacher. That's my
I,
other
th-
job.
I think we all are default teachers these days, aren't
Yeah.
we? Anyone who's a parent. I saw a funny meme the other day. It said, "Yeah, so far homeschooling is going good. Two kids are suspended for fighting in class, and one teacher's been fired for drinking on the job." I'm like, that pretty much sums up 90% of the parents that I know. Uh,
Oh my gosh, it does. It's crazy.
it is,
Yeah. So after all that, no, I've got great kids and great teachers. Kudos to all the teachers that have evolved, right, with all of
yeah,
that's gone on.
no doubt.
A lot, not just teachers. I mean, medical staff. I mean, I think most industries are all having to evolve and regroup for sure. But yeah, I like to stay active. I told myself I had a goal of not gaining any weight. I'd love to lose some weight, but not gaining any weight during this COVID, staycation. So
Yeah,
that's gone pretty well. That hasn't happened, I should say.
good.
But yeah, so I like to run. Now that it's getting warmer, I like to go to the beach. I'd love to get on my paddleboard one of these days. But being outside is huge. I'm up in Connecticut, so our spring is more like an extended winter. So I'm just excited to,
I do.
um, yeah, I'm excited to be outside as much as possible now. And I did tell you I was painting my house. So I am actually taking on this huge monstrosity of a project because I got all this time on my hands. But I find I'm doing it because I find it therapeutic. I love DIY, and I find it very, very therapeutic, and I'm outside while I'm doing it. So.
That's amazing. I heard recently that, meditation can take many forms. I think so many of us take meditation to mean we're sitting and saying Om with our fingers, pressed together in a quiet, dark room somewhere. But meditation can be painting or paddleboarding or, taking your morning walk. I find we just recently got a dog. And it's fallen to me to walk the dog every day, which I love. I love getting out in the morning first thing. But I find that's my time to listen to a podcast or to really collect my thoughts and start my day being purposeful in what I'm about to do. So I find that's, not to cheapen the word meditation, but that's almost my form of meditation, where I'm taking some time to just collect my thoughts. So kudos to you for taking on a project of painting your house, and I hope hopefully that's your form of meditation there too. It sounds like it is.
No, it is. And I mean, we've talked about this. You've given me some wonderful podcasts to listen to. So when I've been sanding, I can't listen to anything, but I'm through most of that, the worst part. But when I paint, I love to listen to podcasts. I think it's a great time to do that.
That's
I should start doing
fantastic.
that with my dog, but my dog will pull me. Like there's not a lot of, I can't take, I got to focus on training her to walk.
Fair enough. So we're coming to an end to the interview or the conversation here. Tell me, we talked about podcasts. We talked about your new direction in life with Conference Direct. Give us some wisdom that you'd like to impart to something that's touched you recently, perhaps in any of your trainings you've gone through with Conference Direct or any of the podcasts. What's something that stuck with you, a piece of wisdom that you'd like to leave anyone who's watching this with?
Oh, wow. Um, even when you think you can't, you can.
I
I,
like
I
that.
think that, I mean, I think that this experience that we're going through right now with COVID-19 and the civil unrest and everything. I mean, I think that there's so many small companies, especially, that are really struggling. Um, and myself, having just started out, it was a little shock. March was a tough month to
Yeah.
say, yeah, I'm going to power through this. There was a minute where I was like, wait a minute, is this going to happen? Like, what's happening? But absolutely, you can get through anything. It might take some time for some of these people, especially. But I think that where there's a will, there's a way, and you just need to take a minute to regroup and then get back at it and listen to those podcasts and inspiration and know that you're strong enough to get through anything.
You remind me
I
of a
am.
quote.
I think we all are.
I think you are. I think we have a lot more strength than we give ourselves credit for. There's a great quote that I heard, and it's always stuck with me, and I think it's very relevant in times like this. If you're going through hell, keep going. you know, don't stop. There's a door on the other end. You got to just keep going through it. Even if you're going through hell, you just got to keep going. So, you mentioned something else too. Jim Rohn, one of my favorite guys to listen to in terms of motivation and keeping your mental space straight. He's a big fan of saying you got to stand guard at the gate of your mind, especially in these times where there's so much negativity. I mean, you can't turn on the news without being a little bit, if not depressed, just kind of discouraged perhaps with what you're seeing with everything going on.
Yeah.
I think you really need to take extreme measures to make sure you're guarding your mind. It's not always easy. It's something that I struggle with from time to time where you have a dark day. It's like, man, you just got to shake your cobwebs off and really purposely refocus to get your mind squared away. Part of the reason why I'm doing these calls, obviously, is not only to get to know you and to give your face, your name a face, so to speak, and a voice behind it, but also because there's people who will watch us that I think that will benefit from the things that you and I are saying right now. And something that's been kind of churning around in my head and my heart recently is I want to, as I get older in life, I'm 45 now. I want to be the person that my younger self needed, and I want to be able to give somebody who's maybe coming behind me, up in the same path, some wisdom or some knowledge that maybe I wish I had back then. So anyway, that's kind of my little tidbit for the day. As you talk about strength and that whether you think you can, when you think you can, you probably can.
Yeah.
Having that perseverance, that grit to come through things, I think is a great way to end the call. I think that's a great closing note there, Vanessa. Anything else you want to share with
Thank
people who
you.
are listening right now? I really appreciate this time. By the way, thank you for sharing your thoughts and your energy with me. Anything you'd like
Thank
to
you.
share and depart with before we sign off here?
Yeah, I would love to say travel. Everyone travel, don't be afraid. Be smart. Follow the CDC guidelines but each state has their own, um, they're open in different ways right now. And research that, for groups, I recommend postponing, not canceling. There's ways to work around it, and we need to keep our hospitality industry afloat. And that is not just hotels. It's not just Conference Direct like ourselves, it's transportation, it's events, it's flower companies, it's restaurants, it's everything in a city
Yeah.
that needs our business to succeed. So travel.
Excellent point. Yeah, I think that is, I'll end it there. That's a perfect way to end. If you have questions, call us. Call Vanessa, call me. If you know us, reach out to us. We are constantly in touch with hotels, hearing the updates, hearing the guidelines that are being put in place. That's what we're here for. So as you get out and travel again, just like Vanessa suggests, let us know how we can help you. We're here to support each other more than ever. The human side of us is here to support. Obviously, the business side, if you need us, is here to support too. So once again, Vanessa, thank you for your time. I really appreciate
Thank you.
you joining and for all the information you're sharing. Until the next time, guys, like I said, be the person that your younger self needed. Have a good day, and we'll see you sometime soon.